Hey you guys, and welcome to today's flow. Today we're going to focus a bit on our hamstrings and legs to really let go of those tight hamstrings and try to ease them up a bit. So we're just going to start on our top of the mat, standing up, and we're going to inhale, reaching arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhaling, gently pushing our chest to the front, opening up for that small back bend. Exhaling, hands to heart center again. Inhaling, this time forward fold, folding all the way down, bending our knees if needed. And we're just going to find our ragdoll pose. So just grab onto our elbows and sway easy side to side. Making sure the movement is happening from the hips here so that we don't damage our knees by twisting them in the movements here. Letting go of the neck, letting it fall, being heavy, away from the shoulder still. Perfect. Hands onto the mat. Inhale, half lift. Exhaling, stepping back your right leg. Lower the back leg knee to the mat. And then rising up to our low lunge. Just finding a bit of comfort here in this pose. We can gently move around, rock a bit, whatever feels comfortable, or staying in the same position here. If we have any problems with our knees, we can always tuck our toes in to protect our knees a bit more. And then reaching down to the mat with our hands. Tucking our toes in, reaching up for our pyramid pose here. So back leg, heel is raised, front leg, heel is down to the mat. So we're bending over. If this is too much, we can use blocks as well to find the comfort, or still lean down here, or just keep our fingers pointed down to the mat. And we're just finding the ease here. And we're going to square our hips, making sure they're aligned. So pushing back that left hip, pushing forward the right hip. Inhaling and exhaling, coming down to low lunge again. And we're going to flow it out. So inhaling, coming up to pyramid pose. Exhaling, coming down to low lunge. Inhaling, pyramid pose. Exhaling, low lunge. Inhaling, stepping your left leg back for our first downward dog for today. Just walking the dog out if that's comfortable for you. Easing up and warming up those muscles. And stepping all the way to the front of the mat. Inhaling, arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhaling, arms up. Exhaling, forward fold. Finding that ragdoll pose again, interlacing our hands and grabbing onto our elbows, bending knees. Or micro bend if we're flexible enough to keep them straight. Making sure the movement comes from the hip here and the folding comes from the hip. So we can almost tuck in our belly against our spine and then fold over again, finding that movement from the hip. Placing our hands down to the mat, inhaling, half lift. Exhaling, stepping our left leg back, placing our lower knee down to the mat. Inhaling, coming up to low lunge. Creating a bit of movement in this pose here, or just staying still wherever you are. And placing hands down, reaching up that back leg, stretching out your front leg. Back heel lifted, front heel down in the mat, straight legs. And squaring out our hips, pushing back that right hip, pushing to the front with the left hip. This is quite an intense stretch. Just try to, if it's too much, we can always bend our knee here, or we can also just step closer and not bend as much if we don't want to, or we can even actually come up and stay straight if that's way too much. Just staying in this posture, breathing into that hamstring and flowing it out. So inhaling, exhaling, coming to low lunge. Inhaling, pyramid pose. Exhaling, low lunge. Inhaling, up again to pyramid pose. Exhaling, low lunge. And inhaling, stepping back to another downward dog. We can again walk the dog out a bit more. Finding that comfort, pushing our upper body away from the mat through our fingers, spreading wide. Feet hip width apart, arms and fingers hip width apart, or shoulder width apart. Perfect. Swinging our right leg up to the sky, placing it to the front of the mat and rising up for our crescent lunge. Strong legs here. And then stepping out to our warrior two. Arms out to the side, look to the front. Strong legs here. Engaging that back leg, pushing through the outer arch and inner arch of the back leg. Knee stacked above our ankle with the front leg. And then coming to our triangle pose, making both of our legs straight here, bending our upper body over our front leg, trying to reach down towards the mat. Chest open wide here. And coming back to warrior two. Swinging it around to our crescent lunge, coming down with our hands to the mat and stepping back. Inhaling, reaching our left leg up to the sky. Bend it and place it to the front of the mat. Coming up to our crescent lunge again. Inhaling and switching to warrior two. Arms wide. Opening up those hips. Knees stacked above our ankle. Pushing through that inner arch and the back leg. Strong engaged back leg as well. Equally distributing your weight between both legs, not letting it fall into the front leg or depending on the back leg. And straightening out the front leg to our triangle pose, leaning over to the front, opening up our chest here. We want to expand it as long as possible, so reaching in both directions with our arms. Inhaling, coming back to our warrior two again. And wheelchairing it, swirling it over to our crescent lunge again. And down to downward dog. Exhaling out here. Coming down to our mat, to tabletop here. And from here, I'm going to switch sides so you can see. From here, we're just going to stack one leg out to the side. I'm taking my left one. And we're going to reach over gently, opening up for a side stretch. At the same time, opening up those inner thighs. Reaching up, breathing into the pose. Inhaling and exhaling. Finding the stability in the pose. And exhaling. Coming back. Reaching over to our side plank supported with a knee. Inhaling, coming back. Switching leg. Right leg out to the side. Inhaling and exhaling, bending over that leg, opening up the side body at the same time, giving the inner thighs stretch. Inhaling, coming back to center, exhaling, coming to our supported side plank, opening up that whole side body, breathing into the right side. Perfect. Coming back to center again, and I'm just going to place myself back to the same position. So we're going to lean down again to our tabletop, and from here pushing up to our downward dog. Taking a few breaths here, pushing our tailbone up to the sky. Strong shoulders, strong arms here. And then lifting our right leg up to the sky, coming to the front of the mat with our right leg, leaning down our left knee to the mat, and then coming up to our low lunge again, opening up the hip flexor. And then we're going to push our front leg, straightening it out, and toes to the top, pointing up to the roof for our half split. Chest going towards the leg. Leveling out our hips here, pushing that right leg back against our hip. And left hip pushing forward, equaling them out. Inhaling, coming to our low lunge. Exhaling, half split. Inhaling, low lunge. Exhaling, half split. We can keep our hands on the mat if that feels more comfortable to you. Inhaling, half, low lunge. Exhaling, half split. Last one, inhaling to low lunge. Exhaling to half split. And we can just come down to a seated one here. And from here we just want to forward bend our upper body against the mat. So reaching up to the front, grabbing onto our toes if we can. If that's too much, we can always bend our knee here a bit to come forward, making the rotation from our hips and not from our back. Perfect. Again, pushing up and coming back to our downward dog. We're going to just switch sides. So we keep the left leg up to the roof, bending it and placing it to the front of the mat, and coming down to our low lunge, back knee to the mat. Inhaling up here, releasing that tension from the hip flexor. And exhaling, letting our hands down to the mat and pushing our weight back into our hips, Front leg straight, toes pointing up to the roof. Leveling out those hips, pushing the right hip to the front and left hip to the back. Now inhaling, flowing it out, low lunge. Exhaling, half split. Chest against that front leg. Inhaling, low lunge. Exhaling, half split. Keeping our hands on the mat if we want to, or having them as an extra push and help to that hip flexor stretch in our low lunge. Exhaling, half lift. And last time, inhaling for our low lunge. Exhaling, half split. And we're just going to come down to a seated position here, one leg to the front for our forward fold. Both hips and both sitting bones onto our mat here, and then reaching forward from our hips, leaning into that stretch. And coming up again, pushing forward and coming to our downward dog. From here, we just want to step all the way to the front of the mat in our own pace. And when we get to the front of the mat, we're just going to fall down into ragdoll again. Creating some movement here, staying still, whatever you feel like is best today. Curving our back, coming all the way up with an inhale. Exhaling, hands to heart center. Now inhaling, reaching arm up again. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, half lift. And then we're going to place and cross our legs here so that we put our right leg behind the left one. And we're going to exhale, forward fold into this twisted forward fold. This is a bit more intense on one of the legs. So if you feel like this is too much, just step out of the posture, do a forward fold, or sit down in a child's pose, relaxing. Now inhaling, half lift, switching sides, stepping back to a normal forward fold. Exhaling, placing the other leg crossed behind, and exhaling down with our upper body, relaxing into it. Feeling that gentle stretch, moving our weight to the front of the feet, giving support through our hands. Still folding from our hip and lower body and not our back. Inhaling, letting go, coming back to our normal forward fold. Relaxing here for 1 second. Inhaling, coming all the way up to standing. Hands reaching up over our head. Exhaling, hands to heart center. And we're just going to step our right leg back to the mat. And we want to still place them like a triangle pose, quite wide, not too wide, 4 feet apart approximately. And then we want to fold forward here, making sure we make the movement from our hips, folding forward. Stopping wherever you feel like it's enough. If we can reach to the floor, grab onto the floor, or grab on between our legs to the floor and push your upper body even further. Making sure your upper body is still long. Shifting our weight to the front of the foot, the front arches of the foot, making sure we're not overextending those hamstrings. Coming back all the way up with an inhale, stepping to the front of the mat, and then we're just gonna sit down gently, bending our knees, coming down onto our butt, and come into a seated position. And here we can just find our butterfly pose, and we're going to end in butterfly pose. So just relaxing into it. We can flex our feet gently here if we want to, or just sit still. If we need support underneath our knees, use blocks or a book or cushions, whatever feels comfortable to you. And we're just going to thank our body for being here with us today, practicing and having the energy we need to achieve whatever we want to achieve. Inhaling, giving our thanks to our body. Inhaling again, feeling the energy rush through your body. Third inhale, and exhale, just let go of the tension in your body. Let your body fully relax into this pose. Lovely. Thank you so much for joining me today on the mat. I hope to see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you want to see more content from me. I'm so happy you're here.